Hugo Broos gave Bafana Bafana something we've been waiting for a very long time. AFCON success, return to the World Cup. But if Hugo Broos rebuilt Bafana Bafana, why has Safa gone back to the man who once left the national team under a cloud of controversy? Why Pitso Mosimane and not the younger generation led by Rulani Mokwena? Is Pitso the right man for the next Bafana Bafana chapter? Or have we simply gone back to a familiar name? We put the record on the table. And one big question is, did Safa make the right call? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Digging Deep. And today we are taking a look at one of the biggest questions in South African football right now. Hugo Broos is gone. Pitso Mosimane is coming back. And immediately the question is, why Pitso and not the other coaches? Pitso has been here before. He coached Bafana Bafana after the 2010 World Cup, if some of you still remember. His first spell ended in 2012, where there was a disappointment. You still remember the controversy that happened during the AFCON qualification, where we thought Bafana Bafana had qualified after using our calculators for a very lengthy 90 minutes. I think Niger was in our group. But look what happened after Pitso Mosimane left Bafana Bafana. He went to Mamelodi Sundowns, and that's where the story completely changed. So today we are asking the question, was Pitso Mosimane's first chapter simply unfinished business with Bafana Bafana? Let's go deep into it. And before we start talking about Pitso Mosimane, let's be fair to Hugo Broos. Broos achieved something significant with South Africa, with Bafana Bafana. He came into a national team that had been struggling for years. He helped rebuild the team from scratch. He took South Africa to a third place at an AFCON in 2023. We all saw that. We saw how they did it. They knocked out the likes of Egypt. They had to go toe-to-toe with Nigeria. But he qualified as well for the 2026 World Cup. And then he achieved something no previous coach at Bafana Bafana had done before at a World Cup. He took South Africa to a World Cup knockout stage where we faced Canada in the last 32. So let's not rewrite history. Broos deserves the credit. In fact, we're talking about Bafana Bafana coaches based purely on what they have achieved during their tenure. Broos has a very strong argument in this case. What he has done, no other Bafana Bafana coach has done. Okay, we can talk about Clive Barker. You won us the AFCON in 1996. We can talk about Shakes Mashaba. He took us to an AFCON, and he played very well at that AFCON. Let's look at what Hugo Broos' CV looked like before he became Bafana Bafana's coach. Not a coach who arrived in South Africa without international pedigree. Broos won the AFCON with Cameroon in 2017. That was huge. And Hugo Broos knows what it takes to win an AFCON tournament. The Broos argument is very simple. He has already proven himself, and we've seen what he has done with Bafana Bafana at AFCON. We see the ranking where Bafana Bafana is today, either African ranking or FIFA World Cup ranking. So Hugo Broos has proved that he can rebuild Bafana Bafana. But the question is, why change now? Why change from that? Why move on from somebody who has proven that they are capable of rebuilding this national team of ours? They're capable of moving Bafana Bafana from number 70-something on the world FIFA ranking to the top 55. At some point, we're even more closer to a top 50 ranking with Hugo Broos. The Pitso Mosimane argument as to, is he really deserving of this job, or have we gone to a familiar name? Someone who comes with a lot of club accolades. I mean, this is where things get interesting with this one. Because if you're going to judge Pitso Mosimane on his previous stint with Bafana Bafana, you can simply argue that he's not the right coach for the job. Because if you are going to judge him based on what came after that failure at Bafana Bafana between 2010 and 2012, it's a complete conversation. I mean, Pitso went to Mamelodi Sundowns. He built a legacy there. He made a name for himself. I mean, we all remember Mamelodi Sundowns during the time of Johan Niskans. There was also Trot Muloto there as well. There were also other coaches who were coming from Europe who have been failing to turn that Motsepe money into success. He won the PSL so many times, back to back sometimes. And he also won a lot of domestic cups. In 2016, Mamelodi Sundowns conquered Africa. Although it was through the back door, but he conquered Africa. They won the Champions League, CAF Champions League. Pitso Mosimane won it for Mamelodi Sundowns. And after that, he went to Ahly in Egypt. What did he do there as well? He won the Champions League again. And he won it again with Ahly. So 3 African Champions League, that is something that you can look at Pitso Mosimane and argue that maybe Safa did not make a mistake. Maybe Safa made the right call. I mean, that is not an African coaching, that is not an ordinary African coaching CV, if we are to speak of it. 3 African Champions League titles with 2 different clubs. I mean, that is elite continental experience. That is something that you cannot get from a lot of coaches. You know, there are a lot of European coaches we see coming into Africa, taking charge of the clubs, but failing to do what Pitso Mosimane has done with the clubs that he's been at in Africa. So perhaps this puts the Pitso Mosimane argument to somewhere where you can say maybe Safa made the right call. I mean, he knows how to win in Africa. And currently we are looking at, before we can even say Bafana Bafana can compete in the World Cup, before we can say Bafana Bafana can even challenge in the World Cup, how good are we when it comes to African tournaments? Are we able to qualify for them? And are we there just to add numbers or compete for the title? Which is which? So Pitso Mosimane is somebody who's not just coming here to help us qualify. I feel like it's somebody who's coming in to assist the team to win. But let's not get carried away as well in that conversation. I mean, we need to be honest at some point. Pitso Mosimane is not coming back as a flawless messiah who we can expect to win immediately. We can expect to say the next AFCON is coming to South Africa. I mean, if we look at his first spell with Bafana Bafana, it ended badly. I mean, the 2012 AFCON qualification situation is part of his history. It's part of his legacy at Bafana Bafana. South Africa failed to qualify and Pitso was eventually dismissed. So the question is, can we separate the Pitso Mosimane of 2020 to 2012 from the Pitso Mosimane who went on to become one of Africa's most decorated club coach? Because that's the real debate here. The Pitso Mosimane who left Bafana Bafana isn't necessarily the Pitso Mosimane who's coming back. We need to be honest about that. He's older now, more experienced, and he's managed in different countries. He's been to Middle East, he's been to Egypt, and he's won titles there. So he's been under pressure. Like if you talk about his time at Ahly, there was a lot of pressure. Even the time he left, it was because of the backroom staff pressure that was coming from the club legends. And so maybe FIFA isn't hiring the Pitso Mosimane that we remember, the Pitso Mosimane that failed in between 2010 and 2012. Maybe they're bringing us the Pitso Mosimane that we've seen conquer Africa. What he became after rebuilding Sundowns. The serial winner that we know Pitso Mosimane to be. And now comes the elephant in the room. Rulani Mokwena. I mean, because if you're looking at the future of South African football, it's obvious. You cannot mention the future of South African football without mentioning the name Rulani Mokwena. He's younger, his tactics are more modern compared to a lot of coaches that we see. And he's worked with many players whom were the core or are the core of this Bafana Bafana side currently. The same Bafana Bafana that we saw finish third at AFCON, the same Bafana Bafana that qualified for the World Cup. Majority of those players are players who were in Rulani's hands when he was in South Africa, when he was at Sundowns. At Mamelodi Sundowns, Rulani Mokwena showed us that he could lead a team to the highest level. We've seen it. We've seen them go almost an entire season without losing a single game. We saw him win the league, either with the trio coaches or as an individual coach. So why not Rulani Mokwena? I mean, this is where we need to separate potential from international experience. Because Rulani has an interesting coach ahead of him. But Pitso has already been there. He's done it all. He's won major titles in Africa. Pitso has coached Bafana Bafana before. Pitso has coached Mamelodi Sundowns. Pitso has coached Ahly. Pitso has won the Champions League multiple times with different clubs. So Rulani has the potential to become one of Africa's top coaches that you cannot fault. But Pitso already has a good CV for that. I mean, maybe this is not Pitso versus Hugo Broos. And it's not even Pitso versus Rulani. Because what does Bafana Bafana need right now? If you want stability, Hugo Broos gave you that. Hugo Broos gave us stability. We know, we were assured that we're going to qualify over and over and over and over again. But if you want a younger coach, Rulani Mokwena is an interesting option. But again, what if you want somebody who's already experienced? Somebody who comes with a lot of experience? But here's my question to you. Was Safa right? Because I can understand both sides, obviously. I can understand the Rulani Mokwena side. I can understand the Pitso Mosimane side. There's even a third side of Benny McCarthy where people are saying, Benny McCarthy. Because on one hand, why not build for the next generation? Why not give somebody like Rulani an opportunity? Why go back to a coach whose spell ended badly before? 2010 to 2012, we couldn't qualify for AFCON. But on the other hand, how many South African coaches have won CAF Champions League? let alone twice, let alone 3 times. So how many have managed some of the most high-performing clubs in Africa? Ahly, Mamelodi Sundowns. That is African experience. And how many have proven that they can win major trophies on the African continent? So my question is, was Safa right to appoint Pitso Mosimane? So maybe the debate isn't whether Pitso Mosimane deserves another chance. Maybe the debate is whether it's the right moment for him to return. Whether it's the right moment for Pitso Mosimane to return to Bafana Bafana. I mean, Broos leaving Bafana behind, he leaves them as a team that has regained respect. Respect on the African continent, respect on an international stage, respect even from us South Africans. Because remember, there was a time where Bafana Bafana used to be called a bunch of by a certain minister of sports. And everybody followed because there was nothing good that was coming out of that Bafana Bafana camp. It seemed like a lost cause. So Pitso inherits a team that is now more stable. And the South African football-loving people expect a lot from that club or from that team. And that changes a lot of things. Because this time, Pitso is not just coming back to rebuild Bafana Bafana from nothing, like the time he took over in 2010 after we couldn't even get out of the group stage. I mean, he's coming back to take a team that has reached the World Cup knockout stages, a team that was third at an AFCON tournament. So, can South Africa go a step further with Pitso Mosimane? I want to know from you, who's watching this video, was Pitso Mosimane the right choice? Should Safa have appointed Rulani Mokwena? Or was the experience exactly what Bafana Bafana needs right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this debate, subscribe, because the next chapter of Bafana Bafana and South African football under Pitso Mosimane begins now.